Welcome, defenders of the Imperium, to an in-depth exploration of Watchers of the Throne, the Emperor's Legion by Chris Wraight. Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of the Imperium, to Terra itself, where power, intrigue, and the weight of millennia converge. In this first part, we delve into the lives of those who stand closest to the Golden Throne, unraveling the complex layers of loyalty, fear, and duty that define this epic tale. This is more than a story of war, it's a story of survival and governance, of the unyielding will to endure in a galaxy on the brink of collapse. Join us as we explore the intricate web of politics and power on Terra, where even the smallest decision can ripple across the galaxy. Part 1. Chapter 1 introduces us to Alexei Lev Tyran, a man who embodies the political machinations of the Imperium. As a high-ranking official within the Adeptus Terra, Tyran has witnessed the ebb and flow of power on the throne world for over 2 centuries. His reflections offer a rare insight into the minds of those who manage the Imperium's vast and complex bureaucracy, a world where power is as much about survival as it is about control. This chapter is a powerful opening that sets the tone for the rest of the novel. Through Tyran's eyes, we glimpse the decaying grandeur of Terra and the relentless struggles of its rulers to maintain order in a universe that is slipping further into chaos. Thematically, it's a story of disillusionment and the heavy burden of leadership in the grim darkness of the far future. We begin with Alexei Lev Tyran, who has served the Imperium for over 200 years, a lifetime measured not in years, but in the scars left by power and time. Tyran is a man marked by loss and solitude, having outlived wives, children, and countless colleagues. His opening monologue is a somber reflection on the futility of power, a theme that resonates deeply within the Warhammer 40K universe. Tyran's world is one of constant vigilance and manipulation. Despite being surrounded by the quadrillions on Terra, he feels an acute loneliness, a profound sense of isolation that underscores the vast impersonal machinery of the Imperium. His musings on the nature of humanity, its base desires for power, wealth, and gratification, even in the face of existential threat, highlight the unchanging, primal instincts that drive the Imperium's rulers. As Tyran navigates his world, he reveals the brutal reality of life within the Imperial Palace. His power is not derived from physical might or psychic ability, but from his mastery of the Lex Imperialis, the law of the Imperium. This power, however, is a double-edged sword, making him both a formidable figure and a target for those who covet his influence. We are given a vivid description of Tyran's role as a doorkeeper, one who controls access, influences decisions, and subtly steers the ambitions of others. This portrayal of power as a delicate dance of influence and survival is quintessentially Warhammer 40K, where the stakes are always life and death, and trust is a rare commodity. The atmosphere in this chapter is thick with the weight of history and the inevitability of decline. Tyran's interactions with the High Lords of Terra reveal a world where even the most powerful individuals are subject to the same fears and uncertainties as the masses they govern. His observations about the High Lords, ruthless, narcissistic, yet undeniably capable, paint a picture of a ruling body that is both the Imperium's greatest strength and its most significant vulnerability. Tyran's interactions with the High Lords are marked by a careful balance of deference and manipulation. He knows their flaws, their fears, and their ambitions, and uses this knowledge to navigate the treacherous waters of imperial politics. His ability to survive for so long in this environment is a testament to his cunning and adaptability. When Tyran receives a visit from the master of the Adeptus Telepathica, Zealot Apcaropleiades, we witness a rare moment of genuine fear from a High Lord. Apcaropleiades, typically a figure of cold detachment, is shaken by recent astropathic visions, or rather, the sudden lack of them. This interaction is crucial as it signals the beginning of a significant shift in the story, with the fate of the Imperium hanging in the balance. The fear expressed by Apcaropleiades is not just personal, it's symbolic of the larger dread facing the Imperium. The silence from the Cadian sector, where the Imperium's forces are engaged in a desperate battle against chaos, suggests an impending catastrophe. Tyran's role in this moment is not just to listen, but to begin laying the groundwork for what comes next, even as the full scope of the threat remains unclear. This chapter is rich in themes central to the Warhammer 40K universe: the inevitability of decay, the burden of leadership, and the thin veneer of civilization that separates order from chaos. Tyrann's reflections on the High Lords reveal the fragile nature of power in the Imperium. Despite their flaws, these individuals are the last line of defense against the complete collapse of the Imperium, a collapse that seems ever closer as the story progresses. Another critical theme is the tension between tradition and change. Tyrann, a man steeped in the traditions of the Imperium, is faced with a situation that may require him to break from these traditions to save what remains of the Imperium. His role as a doorkeeper, a figure who both preserves and controls access to power, places him in a unique position to influence the outcome of the coming crisis. The conversation about dissolution, reconfiguring the High Lords to better respond to the current threats, reflects the desperate need for change within the Imperium's leadership. Yet, as Tyrann knows, change in the Imperium is fraught with danger, and aligning oneself with the wrong side can lead to swift and brutal consequences. Part 2. In this part, we continue to follow the perspectives of different key figures, each playing a vital role in the grand machinery of the Imperium. We begin with Tanau Aleya, a member of the Sisters of Silence, as she uncovers a disturbing connection to one of the most feared enemies of the Imperium. The story then shifts back to Alexei Lev Tyrann, who finds himself increasingly entangled in the dangerous game of politics among the High Lords of Terra. Finally, we accompany Valerian, a Custodes shield captain, as he faces a challenge that will test his loyalty and resolve to the very limits. The themes in this segment revolve around the confrontation with evil, the burdens of leadership, and the intricate power dynamics within the Imperium. Each character is pushed to confront their deepest fears and the harsh realities of their existence within this dark and unforgiving universe. Each section begins with Aleya's chilling discovery in the remnants of a cultist cell. As she sifts through the debris of a recent purge, she finds more than she bargained for, a glimpse into the machinations of the Black Legion. The mirror she retrieves, a twisted artifact infused with dark energies, reveals a brief and unsettling connection to one of the ancient enemies of the Imperium. This is no ordinary encounter. It signals a direct link to the fallen warriors of the Black Legion, those who once served the Emperor but have since turned to the ruinous powers of chaos. The atmosphere in this scene is tense, as Aleya realizes the gravity of her discovery. The Warband's involvement suggests that the cult's activities are part of a larger, more insidious plan. The presence of the Black Legion elevates the threat from a mere heretical outbreak to something far more dangerous. This moment underscores the relentless nature of the enemies that the Imperium faces, foes who are not only powerful but also deeply cunning and capable of reaching into the heart of the Imperium itself. As Aleya makes her escape, her urgency reflects the high stakes of this revelation. She knows that what she has uncovered must be reported immediately, for it could change the course of the ongoing war. The description of her actions, laying charges, collecting evidence, and preparing to return to the safety of her ship, emphasizes the precision and discipline that define the Sisters of Silence. They are warriors, yes, but also hunters and guardians of secrets, dedicated to protecting the Imperium from the psychic threats that seek to undo it. The narrative then shifts back to Terra, where we return to Alexei Lev Tyrann. The tone here is markedly different, a contrast between the battlefield urgency of Aleya and the slow, insidious decay of the political machine on the throne world. Tyrann is now fully immersed in the bureaucratic quagmire of the Senatorum Imperialis, where decisions are made not with weapons, but with words and influence. Tyrann's conversation with General Hastur is a crucial moment in this chapter. Hastur, a veteran of the Cadian conflict, represents the grim reality of the Astra Militarum, a force that is stretched thin, constantly fighting against impossible odds. Tyrann's dialogue with Hastur reveals the growing sense of dread that permeates the Imperium. Despite the general's outward stoicism, there is an underlying despair, a recognition that the war is being lost, piece by piece, and that the forces of chaos are growing ever stronger. The imagery of Terra in this scene is powerful. The capital of the Imperium, once a beacon of hope and power, is now described as a place of slow decay. The sludge-gray sunlight and the oppressive gloom that hang over the palace mirror the internal struggles of its rulers. Tyran's reflections on the futility of his work, his feeling that the machinery of the Imperium is grinding to a halt under the weight of its own inefficiency, add to the sense of impending doom. When Tyran learns that the date for the Camera Inferior is set, there is a brief glimmer of hope. This is a rare victory in a time of growing darkness, a small step forward in the battle to preserve the Imperium. Yet, this victory is quickly overshadowed by the ominous warning that Tyran receives from Fadix, the Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum. Fadix's decision to abstain from the vote on dissolution leaves the council deadlocked, forcing Tyran to seek an audience with the Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes, a task fraught with danger. This section highlights the precarious nature of power on Terra. Tyran is a skilled manipulator, but even he is not immune to the dangers that come with challenging the status quo. The assassination of his agent by Fadix is a stark reminder of the ruthlessness that defines the political landscape of the Imperium. It is a world where loyalty is bought and sold, and where even the most powerful individuals can be eliminated if they become a threat to the established order. The story then shifts to Valerian, who is deep within the heart of the Imperial Palace. His mission is a stark contrast to the political maneuvering of Tyran. It is a test of his strength, loyalty, and resolve as a custodes. Valerian's pursuit and defeat of a traitor Astartes within the palace's vast corridors serves as a reminder of the ever-present danger that lurks within the Imperium's heart. Even the most sacred of places is not immune to the corruption and betrayal that define the 41st millennium. The depiction of the custodes' duties within the palace is rich with symbolism. Valerian's struggle against the traitor is not just a physical battle, but a representation of the eternal vigilance required to protect the Emperor and his legacy. The palace, described as a continent-sized fortress with many forgotten corners, is a reflection of the Imperium itself, vast, ancient, and riddled with hidden dangers. As Valerian walks through the palace, the sense of history and responsibility weighs heavily on him. The blood games, the secretive rituals, and the constant training are all part of a broader preparation for a threat that could strike at any moment. The imagery of the palace as a war zone, with its forgotten chambers and endless corridors, reinforces the idea that the fight to protect the Imperium is never-ending and that those who guard the throne must always be ready to face the most dire of enemies. The interactions between characters in this section are complex and layered with meaning. Alea's encounter with the mirror and her subsequent actions are a testament to her role as a witch seeker, one who must confront the darkness head-on. Her determination to report her findings, despite the risk to herself, speaks to the unwavering duty of the Sisters of Silence. They are a stark contrast to the political machinations on Terra, representing the raw, unyielding force of the Imperium's will. Tyran's interactions with Hastur and Fadix, on the other hand, reveal the subtle dance of power within the Senatorum. Hastur's weariness is palpable, a soldier who has seen too much death and destruction, and who knows that the odds are stacked against him. Tyran's attempts to secure support for the dissolution are met with resistance, not just from the council but from the very system he serves. Fadix's decision to abstain is a masterstroke of manipulation, forcing Tyran into a position where he must risk everything to achieve his goal. Valerian's interactions are less about dialogue and more about action. His battle with the traitor Astartes is a brutal reminder of the physical threats that still exist within the palace. Yet, it is his conversation with Navardaran that carries the most weight. Navardaran's revelation of Heracleon's dreams, a name, Valerian's name, signals a shift in Valerian's fate. The prospect of joining the Herderan Guard, of standing watch over the Emperor himself, is both an honor and a burden. Valerian's reaction, a mix of surprise, fear, and resolve, captures the internal struggle that defines the Custodes' existence. Part 3. In this part, we witness the harrowing experiences of Valerian, a shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, as he faces a challenge that shakes him to his core. The narrative then shifts to Alea, a member of the Sisters of Silence, who returns to a scene of devastation that leaves her reeling. Finally, we return to Alexei Lev Tyran, who finds himself in a dangerous confrontation with the Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes, a figure whose power and authority are unmatched. The themes in this segment revolve around the concepts of duty, failure, and the relentless pursuit of survival. Each character is tested in ways that push them to their limits, revealing the true cost of their devotion to the Emperor and the Imperium. We begin with Valerian, who is confronted with a trial that he cannot overcome, a rare moment of failure for one of the Emperor's elite warriors. As he attempts to pass through a mysterious and powerful doorway deep within the Imperial Palace, he finds himself physically and mentally unable to do so. The description of Valerian's struggle is vivid and intense, conveying the immense pressure and fear that overwhelms him. This moment is significant because it highlights the fact that even the Custodes, who are often depicted as near invincible, are not immune to fear and doubt. Valerian's failure is not just a physical one, it's a blow to his confidence and his identity as a Custodes. The psychological toll is evident as he turns away from the throne, the very symbol of his duty and purpose, unable to fulfill the task before him. This scene serves as a reminder that the burdens carried by those who protect the Emperor are immense, and even they can be crushed under the weight of their responsibilities. The narrative then shifts to Aleia, who arrives too late to prevent a tragedy. As she returns to her homeworld of Eraser, she finds it devastated by a brutal attack. The imagery of destruction is powerful, with the once vibrant planet now reduced to ruins. The orbital defenses are shattered, and the remnants of naval ships drift lifelessly in space. The description of the scene paints a bleak picture of the aftermath of a void raid, emphasizing the overwhelming power and ruthlessness of the enemy. Aleia's journey through the ruins of the convent is both heartbreaking and terrifying. The once sacred halls are now filled with the bodies of her fallen sisters, and the air is thick with the stench of death and destruction. As she moves deeper into the ruins, she encounters a lone, monstrous figure, a Chaos Space Marine, left behind by his comrades. The ensuing battle is brutal and intense, showcasing Aleia's fierce determination and skill as she fights for her life and for the memory of her sisters. The battle between Aleia and the Chaos Marine is described in vivid detail, with every blow and movement captured in a way that makes the reader feel the raw intensity of the fight. Despite being outmatched, Aleia's rage and grief give her the strength to overcome her foe, but the victory is hollow. The scene is a testament to the relentless nature of the Imperium's enemies and the devastating impact they can have on even the most well-defended strongholds. After the battle, Aleia's grief is palpable. The convent, once a place of safety and training, is now a charnel house. The loss of her sisters and the destruction of her home weigh heavily on her, but there is no time for mourning. The phrase he calls his daughter's home, scrawled in blood on the wall, echoes in her mind, adding to the sense of urgency and mystery. This phrase hints at a deeper, more ominous development, suggesting that the forces of chaos are orchestrating a larger plan that threatens the very heart of the Imperium. Finally, we return to Alexei Lev Tyran, who is thrust into a dangerous encounter with the Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes, Trajan Valoris. This scene is charged with tension from the moment Tyran realizes that his gambit to summon Valoris has worked, but at a potentially fatal cost. The description of Valoris's entrance is nothing short of awe-inspiring, as he effortlessly cuts down a horde of rampaging servitors with a display of skill and power that leaves Tyran and his guards in stunned silence. The interaction between Tyran and Valoris is fraught with danger. Tyran, usually so confident in his political maneuvering, is visibly shaken in the presence of the Captain General. Valoris's power is palpable, and the weight of his authority is overwhelming. The dialogue between the two men is sharp and precise, with Valoris demanding to know why Tyran has risked so much to speak with him. This confrontation reveals much about the nature of power within the Imperium. Valoris represents the raw, unyielding might of the Emperor's will, while Tyran embodies the cunning and strategic thinking required to navigate the complex political landscape of Terra. Their exchange is a clash of two very different kinds of power, each essential to the survival of the Imperium, but often at odds with one another. Tyran's plea to Valoris is a desperate one, born of a deep understanding of the perilous state of the Imperium. He knows that without the Custodes' intervention, the Imperium may not survive the mounting threats it faces. Valoris's response is measured, reflecting the heavy responsibility he bears as the guardian of the Emperor's legacy. The tension in this scene is masterfully crafted, leaving the reader on edge, unsure of whether Tyran's gamble will pay off or lead to his demise. The interactions in this part of the story are complex and layered with meaning. Valerian's failure at the doorway is a deeply personal moment, one that challenges his sense of identity and purpose. His interaction with Heraclian, who observes his struggle with a mix of concern and authority, adds to the weight of this failure. The scene emphasizes the high expectations placed on the Custodes and the consequences of falling short of those expectations. Alea's encounter with the Chaos Marine is a visceral and brutal fight, but it also serves as a poignant moment of grief and loss. Her interaction with the fallen sisters, even in death, underscores the deep bond between the members of the Sisters of Silence. Alea's internal monologue, filled with rage and sorrow, highlights the emotional toll of her duty and the sacrifices she must make to protect the Imperium. The interaction between Tyrion and Valoris is perhaps the most intense and pivotal moment in this part of the story. The power dynamic between the two is stark, with Tyrion clearly outmatched physically but holding his ground through sheer force of will. Valoris's stern, almost otherworldly presence contrasts sharply with Tyrion's human vulnerability, creating a scene that is both intimidating and compelling. Through these interactions, Wright skillfully explores the different facets of duty and power within the Imperium. Each character's struggle is a reflection of the larger conflicts that define their world, whether it's the physical battles against the enemies of the Emperor or the political battles that take place within the halls of power on Terra. Part 4. In this part, the narrative shifts focus between Chancellor Lev Tyrion, Shield Captain Valerian, and Sister Alea as they each confront the escalating crises that threaten to engulf the Imperium. Tyrion engages in a tense and revealing conversation with the Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes, Trajan Valoris, where the very future of the throne world hangs in the balance. Valerian, still reeling from his previous failures, grapples with his sense of duty and the growing chaos within Terra's sacred walls. Meanwhile, Alea faces a harrowing journey through the warp, where her ship is assailed by demonic forces, testing her mettle and determination. The themes in this section revolve around faith, duty, and the immense pressure that comes with bearing the weight of the Emperor's will. Each character's path is fraught with danger, uncertainty, and the ever-present threat of failure, which could spell doom for the entire Imperium. We begin with Chancellor Lev Tyrion's continued dialogue with Captain General Trajan Valoris. This conversation is not just a battle of words, but a struggle to influence the course of the Imperium's future. Tyrion, a master of political maneuvering, finds himself in a precarious position as he tries to persuade the Captain General to take a more active role in the governance of the Imperium. Valoris, however, remains resolute, bound by the ancient laws and his unwavering duty to the Emperor. This scene is a masterclass in tension, as Tyrion navigates the fine line between diplomacy and desperation. He challenges the Captain General, questioning how Terra can remain safe if its fortress worlds fall, and pushing the idea that the ancient laws may need to be reconsidered in light of the unprecedented threats facing the Imperium. Tyrion's arguments are compelling, but Valoris's responses are equally unyielding, rooted in a deep-seated belief that only the emperor's will can dictate such a monumental change. The exchange highlights the ideological divide between the custodians of the Emperor's legacy and those who must adapt to the ever-changing realities of war and governance. Valoris's eventual decision to take a seat on the council marks a significant turning point, not just for the narrative but for the fate of the Imperium itself. It is a victory for Tyrion, but a tentative one, as Valoris's agreement comes with the understanding that the future is dark and uncertain, and any misstep could lead to catastrophe. We then shift focus to Valerian, who is still haunted by his inability to cross the threshold in the previous part. His sense of shame and confusion is palpable as he struggles to reconcile his failure with his identity as one of the Emperor's chosen. Valerian's internal conflict is a key theme in this section, as he grapples with the notion that his failure may be a reflection of some deeper, undetected flaw within himself. This introspective journey is interrupted by the reality of the worsening situation on Terra. Valerian is called to action by Tribune Italia to address a growing unrest among the populace. This scene vividly captures the escalating tension within the walls of the imperial palace, as rumors of the Imperium's weakening grip spread like wildfire, fueling riots and chaos. Valerian's encounter with the rioting masses is a stark reminder of the fragile balance that holds the Imperium together. The scene where he single-handedly disperses the crowd through sheer presence, without resorting to violence, is a powerful testament to the awe-inspiring dread that the Custodes inspire among the populace. The imagery here is striking: Valerian, clad in his golden armor, towering over the terrified masses who flee at the mere sight of him. This scene not only demonstrates the Custodes' power, but also raises questions about the nature of that power. Valerian's realization that the people might see the walls of the imperial palace as much as a prison as a fortress is a poignant moment, highlighting the isolation of those who serve the emperor from the very people they are sworn to protect. Meanwhile, Alea's journey through the warp aboard the Katamara is nothing short of harrowing. The ship's passage through the warp is fraught with danger as the Geller field begins to fail, allowing demonic forces to breach the vessel. This section is a masterclass in suspense and horror, as Alea battles not just the external threats, but her own mounting grief and isolation following the loss of her sisters. The battle against the Shidim demon is described in visceral detail, with every blow, every wound, and every moment of fear captured with a terrifying intensity. Alea's combat prowess is on full display here, as she fights with a ferocity fueled by her grief and rage. The struggle is not just physical but psychological, as she contends with the horror of the warp and the knowledge that the forces of chaos are actively seeking her out. This fight is symbolic of the larger battle against the forces of chaos, where every victory is hard-won and the cost is always high. Alea's leadership is also tested as she must manage the ship's crew, many of whom are on the brink of breaking under the pressure. The tension within the Katamara mirrors the broader tension within the Imperium, as both are beset by forces that threaten to tear them apart from within. Alea's determination to press on despite the overwhelming odds speaks to the indomitable spirit of those who serve the Emperor, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges. The interactions in this part of the story are charged with intensity and significance. Tyron's conversation with Valoris is a pivotal moment, where political strategy meets the unyielding force of ancient duty. The tension between the two characters is palpable, as Tyron tries to sway Valoris without overstepping his bounds. Valoris's eventual agreement to take a seat on the council is a victory for Tyron, but it also sets the stage for potential conflict, as the Captain General's presence could shift the balance of power. Valerian's interactions with the rioters provide a stark contrast to his earlier introspection. Here, he is forced to confront the reality of the Imperium's decline, as the people he is sworn to protect turn against the very symbols of the Emperor's power. His realization that the walls of the Imperial Palace may be seen as a prison by the masses is a poignant moment that deepens his internal conflict and adds layers to his character. Alea's interactions are more focused on survival and leadership. Her battle with the demon is not just a fight for her life, but a fight to maintain her resolve in the face of overwhelming horror. The way she manages the crew, particularly the navigator Slovo, shows her strength as a leader, even as she struggles with her own grief and isolation. These interactions reveal the depth of her character, as she balances the need for discipline with a fierce determination to see her mission through to the end. Part 5. In this part, the narrative thrusts us into the high-stakes political machinations within the Imperium's highest council. Chancellor Lev Tyron bears witness to a critical debate among the High Lords of Terra, where the dissolution of ancient laws and the unleashing of the Adeptus Custodes into the wider galaxy is weighed against the stability of the Imperium itself. Meanwhile, the consequences of these debates are felt immediately as the story shifts to Valerian and Alea, who face the catastrophic fallout of the galaxy's unraveling stability. The themes in this section revolve around power, responsibility, and the crumbling boundaries between order and chaos. The characters are forced to confront not only their own beliefs and duties, but also the very fabric of the Imperium as it begins to tear apart under the strain of ancient prophecies and new, unimaginable threats. The scene opens with Lev Tyron observing the High Lords of Terra as they engage in a critical debate that could reshape the Imperium forever. The stakes of this discussion are monumental: the potential dissolution of the Lex Imperialis, which has long governed the balance of power within the Imperium. The High Lords are a mix of ambition, fear, and tradition, each representing a different facet of the Imperium's vast bureaucracy. As they argue, it becomes clear that this is not just about military strategy, but about the soul of the Imperium itself. One of the most compelling aspects of this debate is the portrayal of the High Lords as deeply flawed, deeply human figures, despite their immense power. The Fabricator General, a towering figure locked within his machines, represents the cold, unyielding logic of the Mechanicum. In contrast, the Ecclesiarch, with his grandiose piety, clings desperately to the sanctity of ancient edicts. The stakes of their debate are hammered home when Captain General Trajan Valoris finally speaks, reminding them all of the gravity of the situation should the Custodes be unleashed. It would signify a return to the days of the Great Crusade, but without the Emperor to lead them. The tension in the chamber is palpable, as each argument carries the weight of millennia of history and the lives of untold billions. The debate is abruptly interrupted by the catastrophic news that the Cadian Gate, the bastion that has held back the forces of chaos for so long, has finally fallen. This revelation shatters the deliberations and plunges the council into chaos, as the full scale of the threat facing the Imperium becomes horrifyingly clear. The narrative then shifts to Valerian, who witnesses the skies of Terra itself being torn apart. The imagery here is haunting, with the once familiar gray smog of Terra turning blood red, as if the very heavens are bleeding. This is a world that has not seen such an apocalyptic event since the Horus Heresy, and the fear is tangible. Valerian's sense of duty propels him into action, but even he, a paragon of the Emperor's will, is shaken by the scale of the disaster. The death of the Astronomicon, the Imperium's guiding light, is more than just a logistical nightmare, it's a spiritual blow that sends ripples of despair through even the most hardened of the Emperor's servants. As Valerian moves through the chaos, the narrative captures the sheer scale of the disaster unfolding on Terra. The capital of the Imperium, usually depicted as an unassailable fortress, is suddenly vulnerable, its skies aflame, and its citizens descending into madness. The scene where Valerian encounters a demon attempting to break through the veil within a sacred basilica is particularly striking. The demon's near incursion, facilitated by a corrupted relic, symbolizes the very real danger that the boundaries between reality and the warp are beginning to blur. This encounter is not just a battle for Valerian, it's a stark reminder that the Imperium's defenses are not as invulnerable as once thought. Meanwhile, Alea's story aboard the Katamara continues to escalate in intensity. Her struggle against the encroaching horrors of the warp is a visceral, terrifying depiction of the chaos threatening to engulf the entire galaxy. The ship is beset by demons at every turn, and Alea's leadership is pushed to its limits. The Katamara's crew, though trained and disciplined, are mere mortals facing the horrors of the warp, and their terror is palpable. Alea's battle against the Shidim demon is particularly brutal, showcasing her relentless determination and the horrific toll that this endless struggle is taking on her and her crew. Alea's realization that the Astronomicon has gone dark hits her like a physical blow, a moment that underscores just how desperate the situation has become. The warp, once barely navigable, has become a roiling ocean of nightmares with no guiding light. The despair is further compounded when it becomes clear that the universe itself is fracturing, with the boundaries of reality no longer holding firm. Alea's decision to press on despite the overwhelming odds reflects the theme of resilience in the face of cosmic horror, a theme that runs throughout this part of the narrative. The interactions in this part are fraught with tension and significance. The debate among the High Lords is a masterclass in political maneuvering, with each character representing different ideological and strategic viewpoints. The interaction between Tyrion and Valoris, in particular, is fascinating as it highlights the deep respect and the underlying tension between the political and military arms of the Imperium. Valoris's eventual decision, though interrupted, carries immense weight, as it would have determined the future direction of the Custodes and possibly the entire Imperium. Valerian's interactions are less about dialogue and more about action and observation. His role as a silent guardian is contrasted sharply with the chaos unfolding around him. His brief but intense encounter with the demon within the basilica is a powerful moment that underscores his unwavering commitment to his duty, even as the world around him falls apart. Aleya's interactions aboard the Katamara are increasingly desperate. Her leadership is tested as she tries to maintain order among her terrified crew, and her conversations with Slovo, the ship's navigator, reveal the growing hopelessness of their situation. Slovo's deteriorating mental state reflects the broader collapse of the Imperium's stability, and Aleya's determination to keep pushing forward, despite the odds, highlights her resilience and strength of character. Part 6. Part 6 plunges us deep into the heart of chaos, both literally and figuratively. Aleya's struggle within the warp aboard the Katamara reaches a terrifying climax as they face a monstrous pursuer that threatens to tear their ship apart. Simultaneously, on Terra, Chancellor Leftyran grapples with the unprecedented horrors as the Astronomican's light is extinguished and the capital world of the Imperium is thrown into chaos. This section is a powerful depiction of despair, the fragility of the Imperium, and the resilience of its defenders. The themes explored here are survival against overwhelming odds, the erosion of hope, and the desperate measures taken to protect what remains of the Imperium. The characters are forced to confront their deepest fears as they fight not only for their lives, but for the very soul of humanity. We begin with Aleya aboard the Katamara, a ship lost in the warp, pursued by a malevolent entity. The tension is palpable as the crew struggles to navigate through the warp, knowing that a single misstep could mean their doom. The description of the ship's environment is chilling, cold, creaking metal, the constant hum of stressed machinery, and the ever-present sense of something lurking just out of sight. Aleya's determination to keep the ship on course is contrasted with the growing fear among the crew, who are painfully aware of the ship trailing them through the warp. The narrative captures the horror of the warp in a way that few Warhammer 40K stories do. The gradual deterioration of the Katamara's Giller field, the primary defense against the horrors of the warp, is described in excruciating detail. When the ship's defenses finally give way, the sense of impending doom becomes unbearable. The ship is assaulted by demonic forces, and Wright masterfully conveys the sheer terror of these moments. The warp entity is described as a predator, toying with its prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The tension culminates in a desperate escape attempt, with the Katamara crashing back into real space. The moment is chaotic and violent, with the ship barely holding together as it exits the warp. But the relief is short-lived as they encounter an even greater threat, a massive warp-corrupted vessel that immediately locks onto them. The ensuing battle is brutal, with the Katamara hopelessly outgunned and outmaneuvered. The imagery here is intense, as the ship is torn apart by enemy fire, and the crew prepares to repel boarders, knowing that their chances of survival are slim. Just as all seems lost, the narrative takes a surprising turn. The boarders who arrive are not the expected demonic invaders, but the Sisters of Silence, accompanied by 2 towering Adeptus Custodes. The revelation that Aleya has been found and that she is being taken back to Terra is a moment of unexpected hope. The interaction between Aleya and the Custodes is brief but powerful, highlighting the immense respect and authority these figures command. The Custodes' presence is a stark reminder of the Emperor's enduring power, even in the darkest of times. Back on Terra, the situation is equally dire. Chancellor Leftyran, who has been a steady presence throughout the narrative, finds himself grappling with the reality of the Astronomican's failure and the chaos it has unleashed across the planet. The description of Terra during the days of blindness is haunting. Wright paints a vivid picture of a world in turmoil, with riots breaking out, the skies turned blood red, and the ever-present threat of demonic incursions. The atmosphere of fear and uncertainty is palpable, as even the most powerful figures in the Imperium are reduced to desperate measures to maintain control. Leftyran's interactions with representative arcs of the Inquisition provide insight into the broader implications of the chaos engulfing Terra. Arx's revelation that demons are already present on Terra, something previously unthinkable, underscores the severity of the situation. Her discussion of the Arx doctrine, a strategy of consolidating forces around the core of Terra while abandoning the outer regions to chaos, is a sobering reminder of the sacrifices that must be made to preserve the Imperium. The narrative shifts again as Leftyran and his companion Jek embark on a perilous journey to Luna, where a mysterious battle has taken place. The description of their approach to Luna, with its once familiar surface now transformed by war and sorcery, is striking. The reveal of the battlefield on Luna, littered with the bodies of space marines and demonic entities, is a powerful moment. The sheer scale of the conflict, with legions of Astartes and the Custodes fighting against demonic forces, emphasizes the enormity of the threat facing the Imperium. Lev Tyran's reaction to the scene on Luna is one of awe and horror. The presence of an unnatural gate at the heart of the battlefield, clearly of demonic origin, suggests that the forces of chaos are far more entrenched and organized than anyone had anticipated. The final moments of this part leave Lev Tyran and the reader facing the terrifying reality that the worst is yet to come. Aleya's interactions aboard the Katamara are marked by desperation and resolve. Her determination to keep the ship on course, despite the overwhelming odds, is a testament to her strength of character. The moment she encounters the Custodes is a turning point for her. She goes from being a hunted survivor to someone with a renewed purpose, guided by these legendary warriors back to Terra. Lev Tyran's interactions with Representative Arx are deeply revealing. Arx is portrayed as a figure of grim determination, fully aware of the horrors they face, but resolved to do whatever it takes to protect the Imperium. Their conversations are laced with tension, as Tyran grapples with the implications of the Arx doctrine and the difficult decisions that lie ahead. The bond between Tyran and Jek is also explored further, showing how their shared experiences have forged a deep, if unlikely, connection in the face of overwhelming adversity. The introduction of the Custodes and the Sisters of Silence aboard the Katamara adds a new dimension to the story. Their calm, authoritative presence in the midst of chaos underscores their role as the Emperor's ultimate defenders. The Custodes' brief conversation with Aleya is laden with significance, hinting at the larger forces at play and the critical role she is destined to play in the battles to come. Part 7. Part 7 is a pivotal moment in the narrative, where the strands of different storylines begin to converge towards a singular, cataclysmic event. We see the long-awaited arrival of Primarch Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, as he returns to Terra after an epic journey across a galaxy in turmoil. Simultaneously, Terra faces an unimaginable threat as the forces of chaos breach the very walls of the Imperial Palace. The themes in this chapter are grand in scope: the return of ancient legends, the fragility of the Imperium, and the overwhelming power of chaos. The narrative juxtaposes the awe-inspiring presence of Guilliman with the horror of the demonic incursion, creating a powerful contrast between hope and despair. The chapter opens with a scene of almost dreamlike surrealism as Chancellor Lev Tyran witnesses the arrival of Primarch Guilliman on Luna. Tyran is overwhelmed by the sheer presence of the Primarch, a figure he had only known through legends and devotional tracts. Guilliman's arrival is portrayed as something almost otherworldly, with Tyran struggling to comprehend the magnitude of the event. The Primarch is surrounded by his champions and counselors, figures of immense power and authority, yet it is Guilliman's gaze that captivates Tyran, filling him with both awe and dread. This scene is significant because it marks a turning point in the story. The return of Guilliman is not just the return of a hero, it is the return of a symbol of hope in a time of darkness. Tyran's reaction reflects the collective awe and disbelief of the Imperium's citizens, who had long believed such legends were lost to the past. The dialogue between Guilliman and Tyran is brief but loaded with meaning. Guilliman's calm, authoritative manner contrasts sharply with Tyran's frailty and the chaos around them, highlighting the vast gulf between a Primarch and an ordinary human. As the narrative shifts, we follow Valerian and the Custodes as they prepare to face the growing threat on Terra. The relationship between the Custodes and the Grey Knights is explored in more depth here, revealing an undercurrent of tension and mutual suspicion. Valerian's reflections on the nature of the Grey Knights, their singular purpose, and their mysterious origins provide insight into the complex dynamics within the Imperium's most elite forces. The Grey Knights are portrayed as an army with a sole purpose: to fight chaos. This contrasts with the Custodes, who were originally intended for a broader role within the Emperor's grand design. The narrative takes us to the heart of the battle as Valerian leads an assault against the corrupted forces that have overrun parts of Terra. The descriptions of the fighting are intense and visceral, with Valerian cutting through waves of corrupted humans and demonic entities. The depiction of the enemy is grotesque, emphasizing the sheer horror of chaos. The scene in the manufactory, where Valerian and his forces engage in brutal close-quarters combat, is particularly striking. The imagery of the corrupted priest sacrificing victims atop a pulpit, the bodies of Imperial troops strewn across the floor, and the mass of deranged followers surrounding them paints a vivid picture of the nightmare unfolding on Terra. The arrival of the Grey Knights in the midst of this chaos adds another layer of intensity. The description of their teleportation into the battlefield, their precise and lethal movements, and their overwhelming psychic presence underscore their role as the Imperium's ultimate weapon against chaos. The tension escalates further as Valerian and the Grey Knights realize that something far worse is coming. The earth trembles, the walls begin to crack, and the very fabric of reality seems to buckle under the weight of the impending demonic onslaught. The climax of the chapter comes with the sack of the Lion's Gate, a moment of unprecedented horror as the forces of chaos breach one of the most fortified locations on Terra. The description of the demons emerging from the rift is nothing short of terrifying. Wright's prose captures the sheer scale and power of the demonic host as they tear into reality. The imagery of bloodthirsters, colossal demonic beings, leading an infernal army against the walls of the Imperial Palace is both awe-inspiring and horrifying. The final scenes shift back to Aleia, who, along with a group of sisters, makes planetfall on Terra amid the chaos. Her descent from the Black Ship, the Enduring Abundance, is fraught with danger as they crash through the war-torn skies of Terra. The landing is brutal, and Aleia's first glimpse of Terra is one of devastation and despair. The description of the burning troposphere and the ruins of the once glorious Imperial Palace emphasizes the magnitude of the crisis. Aleia's immediate response is to fight, reflecting her indomitable spirit and the relentless determination of the Sisters of Silence. The interactions in this chapter are charged with emotion and significance. Tyrine's encounter with Guilliman is a moment of profound awe and humility. Tyrine, who has been a voice of authority throughout the narrative, is reduced to a mere mortal in the presence of a living legend. Guilliman, in turn, is portrayed as both a savior and a figure burdened with immense responsibility. His calm demeanor belies the immense pain and sorrow he carries from the events that have led him to this moment. Valerian's interactions with the Grey Knights reveal the complex relationship between these two elite forces. There is respect, but also a deep-seated wariness. The Grey Knights are portrayed as distant and almost alien in their singular focus on combating chaos. Valerian's own reflections on their nature and purpose add depth to his character, revealing his own doubts and the heavy burden of responsibility he carries as a custodian of the Emperor's will. Aleia's interactions with her fellow Sisters of Silence, particularly with Reaver, are marked by a shared sense of purpose and determination. Despite the overwhelming odds, there is a grim resolve among them to fight for Terra, no matter the cost. Aleia's internal struggle with her anger and resentment towards the Imperium adds a layer of complexity to her character, highlighting the personal toll of the events that have transpired. Part 8. In Part 8, we witness the harrowing events as the forces of chaos breach the Lion's Gate, and the defenders are pushed to their absolute limits. The narrative is a tapestry of despair, heroism, and the brutal truth of the Imperium's reality. This chapter is a sobering reminder of the constant struggle to protect humanity from annihilation, a theme that resonates deeply throughout the Warhammer 40K universe. The chapter begins with Chancellor Lev Tyrine, who has been an observer throughout the unfolding crisis, now confronting the full, unfiltered horror of the Chaos incursion. As he witnesses the destruction wrought by the forces of the Warp, Tyrine's sense of despair deepens. The once great bastion of humanity, Terra, is revealed to be a shadow of its former glory, a diseased and decaying world. Tyrine's personal crisis reflects the broader existential threat facing the Imperium. His realization that the very world they fought to protect has become a breeding ground for despair and corruption is a powerful commentary on the Imperium state. Tyrine's disillusionment is compounded by his conversation with Jack, who tries to reassure him that this is a new beginning. But Tyrine is haunted by the knowledge that he, along with others, has contributed to the decay. His dreams are filled with fire and inhuman faces, symbolizing the burning reality of Terra's downfall. The sense of helplessness Tyrion feels as he witnesses the Chaos forces breach the Lion's Gate is palpable. The chapter vividly describes the moment when the Eye of Terror itself seems to descend upon Terra, fulfilling the darkest prophecies that had long been ignored. As the narrative shifts to Valerian, we are thrown into the heart of the battle. Valerian's portrayal as an almost superhuman warrior is contrasted with the sheer overwhelming numbers of the demonic forces. The description of his combat is intense and detailed, showcasing the artistry of killing that the Custodians have perfected. Valerian's perspective highlights the difference between him and the Grey Knights. While they fight as a brotherhood, Valerian battles alone, relying on his unparalleled skill and physical prowess. The battle scenes are some of the most gripping in the novel, with Valerian describing the demons in vivid detail, their elongated heads, their clawed limbs, and the bloodlust that fuels them. The tension escalates as Valerian and the Grey Knights push deeper into the demonic horde, each step a struggle against an endless tide of malice. The sheer scale of the Chaos forces, combined with the relentless onslaught, creates a sense of impending doom. The Custodians, Grey Knights, and the Sisters of Silence are the last bastion against this tide, and their desperate struggle is a testament to their unwavering dedication to the Emperor. The narrative then follows Alea, who provides a contrasting perspective on the battle. Unlike Valerian, Alea does not see the demons as fearsome, she sees them as excretable, like insects and filth. Her view of Terra as a foul sink of dilapidation underscores the decay that has set in even at the heart of the Imperium. Alea's battle is personal, driven by her need to survive and protect her sisters. The description of the battle from her perspective is less grandiose and more grounded, focusing on the immediate, brutal reality of fighting for survival. The Sisters of Silence play a crucial role in dampening the psychic presence of the demons, allowing the physical warriors to do their work. This symbiotic relationship between the sisters and the Custodians highlights the importance of unity in the face of overwhelming odds. The chapter reaches a climax with the appearance of the Shaitan, a greater demon whose size and power dwarf even the mightiest of the defenders. The description of the Shaitan is terrifying, an immense, fire-spewing monster whose very presence warps reality around it. Valerian and Alea, along with the Grey Knights, engage in a desperate battle against this colossal foe. The fight is brutal, with the Shaitan crushing and tearing through the defenders with ease. The stakes are at their highest as the defenders struggle to bring down this beast. Valerian's heroic efforts, including his audacious attack on the Shaitan's heart, are not enough to bring the demon down alone. It is Alea who delivers the critical blow, severing the demon's leg and allowing Valerian to strike the killing blow. The teamwork between Valerian, Alea, and the Grey Knights is what ultimately leads to the Shaitan's downfall. The description of the final moments of the battle is intense, with the defenders drenched in the foul fluids of the demon as they continue to fight off the remaining forces of chaos. The sense of exhaustion and relief is palpable, yet the victory feels hollow. The battle may be won, but the war is far from over. The narrative then returns to Tyrion, who reflects on the aftermath of the battle. He acknowledges that what he has witnessed will forever change the way the Imperium views its enemies. The illusion of safety, of walls that can keep the horrors at bay, is shattered. Tyrion's realization that no fortress, no citadel, is beyond the reach of chaos is a chilling reminder of the constant threat that the Imperium faces. His reflections are tinged with a deep sense of loss, not just of lives, but of the very ideals that the Imperium once stood for. The dream of a safe, secure Imperium is gone, replaced by the harsh reality of an endless, existential struggle against the forces of chaos. The chapter concludes with Valerian's reflections after the battle. Despite the victory, he feels no sense of elation. Instead, he is left with a sense of withdrawal, as if something has been taken from him. The battle has changed him, as it has changed everyone who fought in it. The disturbing realization that he wants more, that the violence has awakened something within him, adds a layer of complexity to his character. Valerian, like Tyrion, is left to grapple with the new reality that the battle has revealed, a reality where the lines between heroism and brutality, between duty and desire, are increasingly blurred. The interactions in this chapter are deeply significant, revealing the inner struggles of the characters as they face the darkest aspects of the Warhammer universe. Tyrann's conversation with Jack reflects his internal conflict, the realization that he is complicit in the decay of Terra and his growing sense of despair. His interactions are characterized by a profound sense of guilt and helplessness, mirroring the broader existential crisis facing the Imperium. Valerian's interactions with the Grey Knights and the Sisters of Silence during the battle highlight the importance of unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Despite their differences, they fight together, each playing a crucial role in the battle against the forces of chaos. Valerian's growing respect for the Sisters of Silence, especially Alea, is a key development in the story. It shows how the desperate circumstances of the battle have forged new alliances and a deeper understanding between these disparate groups. Alea's interactions with her fellow sisters and her growing connection with Valerian are also significant. Her perspective as a Sister of Silence offers a unique view of the battle, one that is not clouded by the psychic terror that affects the other defenders. Her courage and determination, despite the overwhelming odds, make her a key figure in the battle. The mutual respect that develops between her and Valerian is a testament to the bond that forms between warriors who fight side by side in the face of death. Part 9. Part 9 of The Emperor's Legion is a turning point in the novel, where the narrative shifts focus from the intense battles to the political and personal repercussions of those conflicts. The characters grapple with the aftermath of the demonic incursion, the return of Primarch Guilliman, and the ever-looming threat of chaos. In this section, we see the true cost of the war on Terra, not just in terms of lives lost, but in the erosion of trust, the rise of paranoia, and the shifting power dynamics among the Imperium's leaders. The chapter opens with Chancellor Lev Tyrann reflecting on the aftermath of the battle for the Lion's Gate. He is in a state of shock, operating like an automaton, issuing commands and handling the logistics of recovery, but all the while, he is haunted by the enormity of what has transpired. This sense of detachment and numbness is a powerful depiction of the psychological toll the war has taken on those in power. Tyrann's disconnection from reality symbolizes the broader disarray within the Imperium's leadership. Tyrann's meeting with Hematalion, the master of the Administratum, reveals the deepening paranoia among the High Lords. Hematalion, who once wielded immense power through the control of information, is now almost powerless, cut off from his own networks by the collapse of communication systems. This shift in power dynamics is a stark reminder of how fragile even the most powerful institutions can be in the face of chaos. Hematalion's fear of Guilliman's return and his belief that the Primarch represents a threat to the established order highlight the tension between the old guard and the new. The High Lords are divided, uncertain of how to react to Guilliman's presence, and this division threatens to tear the Imperium apart from within. Tyrann, caught between loyalty to the High Lords and his growing realization that their power is waning, finds himself at a crossroads. His conversation with Hematalion exposes the fear that Guilliman might take control, potentially leading to a new Great Crusade or even a purge of the Imperium's leadership. This fear is not unfounded. Guilliman's history as a reformer and a warrior makes him a wildcard in the political landscape of the Imperium. The question of whether Guilliman will restore order or plunge the galaxy into further conflict is a central theme in this chapter. The narrative then shifts to Valerian, who is dealing with the staggering losses suffered by the Custodians during the battle. The death of nearly 2,000 Custodians, including Tribune Italia, is a heavy blow, marking one of the most significant losses in their history. Valerian's reflections on these losses reveal the deep bond between the Custodians and the weight of their duty. Despite the grief, Valerian and his brothers remain resolute, embodying the relentless spirit of the Adeptus Custodes. Their ability to recover from such losses and continue their duty underscores the theme of sacrifice that runs throughout the novel. Valerian's encounter with Alea, a Sister of Silence, adds another layer to the story. Alea's anger and frustration at the Custodians' perceived inaction highlight the growing rift between different factions within the Imperium. Her resentment stems from the belief that the Custodians have been too passive, content to defend the palace while the galaxy burns. This conflict between duty and action is a recurring theme, and Alea's perspective challenges Valerian's stoic adherence to his role as a defender of the throne. Their interaction is charged with tension, as Alea demands that Valerian help her take the fight to the enemy, rather than waiting for the enemy to come to them. The introduction of the ancient map, written in a long-forgotten dialect of Chthoniya, becomes a pivotal moment in the chapter. The map, a relic of the past, holds the key to understanding the strategic movements of the enemy. Valerian's ability to decipher it, combined with Alea's determination, sets the stage for a daring counteroffensive. This decision to take the fight to the enemy, despite the risks and against the orders of the High Lords, marks a significant turning point for both characters. It shows their willingness to defy the established order in pursuit of what they believe is right, even if it means acting outside the law. The chapter also delves into the broader implications of Guilliman's return. While the High Lords are paralyzed by fear and indecision, Valerian and Alea represent a new approach, one that is proactive, willing to take risks to protect the Imperium. Their actions challenge the status quo, suggesting that perhaps the old ways are no longer sufficient to deal with the threats facing the galaxy. This theme of change versus tradition is central to the novel, as the characters grapple with the need to adapt to survive. The climax of the chapter comes when Valerian, Alea, and a small band of custodians and Sisters of Silence defy the orders of the High Lords and launch a covert mission to strike at the heart of the enemy's plans. The tension is palpable as they prepare for what is essentially a suicide mission, driven by a sense of duty and the desire to protect the Imperium at all costs. This act of defiance is a powerful statement about the lengths to which these characters are willing to go to fulfill their duty, even when it means going against the very leaders they are sworn to serve. Tyron's role in this mission is complex. He aids Valerian and Alea, understanding the risks involved, but also recognizing that the old ways are failing. His internal conflict reflects the broader theme of the novel, the struggle between maintaining the status quo and embracing change in the face of overwhelming odds. Tyron's decision to help, despite knowing the consequences, is a significant moment of character development, showing his shift from a loyal servant of the High Lords to someone who is beginning to question the very foundation of the Imperium's power structure. The interactions in this chapter are rich with tension and significance. Tyron's conversation with Hematalion reveals the deep divisions within the High Lords and their growing fear of Guilliman. Hematalion's paranoia and Tyron's growing disillusionment with the Council are indicative of the broader crisis facing the Imperium's leadership. This interaction sets the stage for the political conflict that will likely escalate as Guilliman asserts his authority. Valerian and Alea's interactions are equally charged. Alea's anger at the custodians and her demand for action challenge Valerian's deeply ingrained sense of duty. Their conversation is a clash of ideals, Alea's desire to take the fight to the enemy versus Valerian's traditional role as a defender. This conflict is resolved not through words, but through action, as Valerian ultimately agrees to support Alea's mission, marking a significant shift in his character. Tyron's interaction with Valerian and Alea is also crucial. As a political figure, Tyron represents the old order, but his decision to aid the mission shows his growing realization that the old ways are no longer sufficient. His willingness to act outside the law, to support a mission that defies the High Lords, marks a turning point in his character arc. Tyron's internal conflict mirrors the larger conflict within the Imperium, whether to cling to the old ways or to embrace the changes that are necessary for survival. Part 10. In Part 10 of The Emperor's Legion, we witness the culmination of events that have been building throughout the novel, tying together the galaxy-spanning conflicts with the personal journeys of the characters who have carried us through this narrative. This chapter serves as both a conclusion and a beginning, a bridge between the desperate defense of the throne world and the dawn of the Indomitus Crusade. The restoration of the Astronomicon, the destruction of the Null Shard, and the recognition of new roles within the Imperium all converge to highlight the ongoing evolution of the Emperor's realm in the face of unprecedented threats. The chapter opens with a momentous event that reverberates throughout the Imperium, the restoration of the Astronomicon. This psychic beacon, vital for the navigation of ships across the vastness of space, is more than just a practical tool. It's a symbol of hope, a testament to the Emperor's enduring presence, and a rallying point for a galaxy on the brink of collapse. The return of the Astronomicon is not just about reconnecting with distant star systems, it represents the rekindling of hope within the hearts of billions who feared the darkness had finally won. However, this moment of hope is bittersweet. The narrative quickly reminds us that the Imperium is far from saved. The losses incurred during the period of darkness, when the Astronomicon's light was extinguished by the cicatrix maledictum, are staggering. Whole sectors have fallen silent, and key strongholds like Cadia have been lost. The Imperium, vast and mighty as it is, now faces the grim reality of its own fragility. The restoration of the Astronomicon doesn't erase the devastation that has already occurred, rather, it illuminates just how much ground the Imperium must now reclaim. As we transition from the galactic scale to the personal, the focus shifts to Chancellor Lev Tyran, whose role as a witness to the unfolding crisis becomes more central. His visit to the citadel of Charipleiades, the master of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, is a journey into the heart of the Imperium's psychic network, a network that has been pushed to the brink by the forces of chaos. The citadel, once a place of controlled power and arcane knowledge, is now a house of horrors. The blood-stained floors, the echoes of screams, and the pervasive sense of corruption paint a vivid picture of the psychic toll exacted by the Imperium's enemies. Tyran's meeting with Guilliman in the planetarium marks a turning point in the narrative. Here, in this room of stars and hololithic projections, we see Guilliman not as a distant, almost mythic figure, but as a leader burdened by the weight of the Imperium's survival. The Guilliman we encounter here is different from the one who first returned to the galaxy. He is grizzled, war-weary, and deeply aware of the monumental task before him. His transformation from a figure of boundless energy to one weighed down by the knowledge of what must be done underscores the gravity of the situation. Guilliman's understanding of the enemy's true strategy, sealing off the Imperium from the rest of the galaxy by controlling the warp conduits, adds a new layer of urgency to the narrative. The introduction of the Null Shard, a massive, psychic sink designed to disrupt the warp, is one of the chapter's most chilling revelations. This shard, a twisted remnant of the Cadian pylons, represents a terrifying new weapon in the arsenal of the forces of chaos. The shard's purpose is not just to block the warp, but to isolate Terra and prevent the launch of the Indomitus Crusade. Its presence in the narrative underscores the high stakes of this galactic struggle. The Imperium is not just fighting for survival, but for the very ability to strike back against its enemies. The Shard is a dark mirror to the Astronomicon, a tool of absolute denial, capable of extinguishing hope and light in an entire sector of space. The narrative then plunges into the heart of the action with Valerian and Alea's assault on the Black Legion warship carrying the Shard. This is where the personal and the epic collide, as the Custodians and Sisters of Silence engage in a brutal fight against overwhelming odds. The description of the battle is visceral, with every clash of blades and every burst of bolter fire underscoring the desperation and determination of the Imperium's defenders. Valerian's reflections during the battle reveal the depth of his internal struggle and his acceptance of the ultimate sacrifice in service to the Emperor. This battle is not just about stopping the Shard, it's about proving that the Custodians are more than just guardians, they are warriors forged for the darkest of times. As the battle reaches its climax, Valerian's band of warriors is whittled down to a handful, holding out against a relentless tide of Black Legionnaires. The imagery here is powerful, the Custodians and Sisters of Silence, standing as islands of defiance in a sea of darkness, embody the Imperium's refusal to yield, even in the face of certain death. Valerian's determination to see the mission through, despite the overwhelming odds, speaks to the core theme of duty and sacrifice that permeates the novel. This is what the Imperium demands of its servants, to fight, to bleed, and to die, all in the name of preserving humanity's future. The resolution of this climactic battle comes with the arrival of Guilliman and his forces. The destruction of the Shard is a critical victory, preventing the enemy from sealing off the warp conduits and ensuring that the Indomitus Crusade can proceed. But this victory comes at a great cost. The casualties among the Custodians and the Sisters of Silence are severe, and the Imperium's triumph is tinged with the knowledge that the war is far from over. The acknowledgement of Valerian and Alea's sacrifices and the recognition of the Custodians' new role underscore the theme of renewal through sacrifice. The Imperium is evolving, adapting to the new threats it faces, and the Custodians are now at the forefront of that evolution. The interactions in this final chapter are rich with significance, each one revealing new layers of the characters and their relationships. Tyran's encounter with Guilliman in the planetarium is particularly noteworthy. This scene is more than just a meeting between a servant of the Imperium and its newly returned Primarch. It's a moment of clarity, where Tyran is made to understand the true scale of the crisis and the role he must play in it. Guilliman's decision to involve Tyran and the Custodians in his plans reflects his strategic brilliance and his understanding of the complexities of leadership. Guilliman doesn't just need warriors, he needs allies who understand the intricate dance of power and politics that will shape the Imperium's future. Valerian's relationship with Alea also reaches a new level of depth in this chapter. Their partnership, forged in the crucible of battle, is emblematic of the broader alliances that the Imperium must now form to survive. Valerian's respect for Alea's fierce determination and Alea's recognition of Valerian's unyielding sense of duty highlight the complementary nature of their strengths. This partnership is a microcosm of the Imperium's new reality, a world where old divisions must be set aside and new alliances must be forged in the face of a common enemy. Their bond, built on mutual respect and shared purpose, symbolizes the unity that the Imperium must embrace to endure. The post-battle interaction between Tyran and the wounded Valerian is one of the most poignant moments in the chapter. Valerian, battered and broken but still alive, represents the resilience of the Imperium. His survival, despite the odds, is a testament to the strength and determination that define the Custodians. Tyran's reflection on Valerian's survival and his recognition of the Custodians' new role marks a moment of quiet resolution. The Custodians, once seen as distant, almost mythic figures, are now revealed as flesh-and-blood warriors who bleed, suffer, and fight for the Imperium's survival. This interaction also highlights the theme of passing the torch. Tyran, who has served the Imperium for so long, now recognizes that a new generation of leaders and warriors must take up the mantle. Part 10 is a masterclass in thematic depth, weaving together the strands of sacrifice, renewal, and the relentless march of duty. The restoration of the Astronomicon symbolizes the rekindling of hope, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the Imperium's fragility. The struggle to protect Voles and destroy the Null Shard underscores the theme of survival at all costs. The Custodians, once the silent guardians of Terra, are now active participants in the galaxy's defense, reflecting the Imperium's need to adapt to survive. The theme of renewal through sacrifice is central to this chapter. Valerian and Alea's willingness to give their lives to stop the enemy's plan is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of the Imperium's defenders. Their actions pave the way for the launch of the Indomitus Crusade, a campaign that will shape the future of the galaxy. This theme is reinforced by Tyran's reflections on the new role of the Custodians and the passing of leadership to a new generation. The chapter suggests that the Imperium's future depends on its ability to adapt, to embrace new roles and responsibilities, and to make the necessary sacrifices to protect what remains. Another key theme is the complexity of leadership in an age of constant warfare. Guilliman's decision to involve Tyran and the Custodians in his plans reflects his understanding that leadership is not just about command, but about trust, adaptation, and the ability to see the bigger picture. This theme is embodied in Guilliman's willingness to lead from the front, to fight alongside his warriors, and to recognize the contributions of even the most unlikely allies. The chapter suggests that true leadership in the Imperium is about more than just power. It's about responsibility, sacrifice, and the ability to inspire others to fight for a common cause. The narrative also explores the theme of trust, both in oneself and in others. Throughout the novel, we've seen characters like Tyran, Valerian, and Alea grapple with doubts and uncertainties. In this final chapter, those doubts are set aside as they place their trust in each other and in the broader mission of the Imperium. Tyran's trust in Guilliman, Valerian's trust in Alea, and Alea's trust in the mission reflect the interconnectedness of their fates. This trust is not blind, it's forged in the fires of battle and tempered by the harsh realities of the Imperium's struggle. The chapter suggests that in an age of darkness, trust is both a weapon and a shield, a necessary component of survival in a galaxy where betrayal and chaos are constant threats. Finally, there is the theme of mortality and the acceptance of one's role in the grand tapestry of the Imperium's history. Tyron, in particular, reflects on his place within this vast machine, recognizing that his time as an active participant in the Imperium's affairs is drawing to a close. His decision to step back and allow a new generation to take the lead is a powerful moment of self-awareness and humility. It's a reminder that no matter how significant one's role may seem, there comes a time when every servant of the Emperor must make way for others. This acceptance of mortality and the passing of the torch is a theme that resonates deeply in a narrative where the stakes are so high and the cost of failure is so absolute. The final part of the Emperor's Legion is a fitting conclusion to a story that has taken us to the heart of the Imperium's struggles and the souls of those who defend it. The restoration of the Astronomicon, the destruction of the Null Shard, and the recognition of the Custodian's new role all contribute to the sense of a new beginning for the Imperium. However, this new beginning is not without its challenges. The war is far from over, and the road ahead is fraught with danger. Yet, despite the darkness, there is hope, a hope rekindled by the sacrifices of those who fight for the Emperor and the future of humanity. As we close this chapter, we are left with a powerful message: the Imperium endures. It endures through the sacrifices of its warriors, the leadership of its primarchs, and the unwavering faith of its people. The story of the Emperor's Legion is a testament to the strength and resilience of the Imperium, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. As the Indomitus Crusade begins, we are reminded that the fight for the galaxy is far from over, but as long as there are those who are willing to stand and fight, the Imperium will continue to endure. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Watchers of the Throne, the Emperor's Legion. We hope you've enjoyed this in-depth analysis and that it has deepened your understanding of the rich, complex world that Chris Wraight has created. Until next time, may the Emperor's light